Hello and welcome to Best of Three, Week 3 edition. I'm your host, RNG, joined by rekenner, as always. And today we're going to be taking a look at the ETS that almost wasn't. Unfortunately, we were a little bit light on production for the weekend, so a lot of the cool decks that we're going to be talking about here you didn't get to see on camera. As well, we had the player draft this weekend, again, woefully uncovered. So we're going to be taking a look at that, and then we'll close it off with an interview with this week's winner.
The ETS that was
I hope
almost
some
lost.
and or all of that came through.
Yes, you're good, RNG. That was the ETS that was almost
I'm not
lost.
feeling super confident that it did.
Fortunately, oh my, RNG's internet is hiccuping a little bit. But fortunately, we managed to watch a lot of the actual games themselves. I watched basically the entirety of the top 8 bouncing around between various people, and I watched a lot of the games during the Swiss. So I can talk about the decks, I can talk about the event. We still have our stats, of course, and we're going to be going over a whole lot of new different decks and interesting card choices and all that stuff. So with that, I think let's jump to the archetypes and win rates.
Yeah, I'm back. Apparently, my whole pitch went through. Hopefully, it did. But
Yeah.
So we had a mid-range comeback this weekend with 4 mid-range decks in the top 5, as well as the FTP Moment decks, which seems as though their time has passed. We don't have any red text on here, but 34% is not very commanding.
To be a little fair to that, it's if you were to assume Komodo were to have dropped at 0-2 or I think 1-2, you'd cut a few losses off of that. Mm-hmm. But even then, you're not going to get its win rate higher than about a little bit under 40%. FTP Moment definitely struggled a little bit. Lights Out Ace almost managed to make it into the top 8. He was fighting for 5-1 and then didn't quite make it in on tiebreakers. He actually faced off against the other Moment deck in the last round of the Swiss. He says he thinks he should have won the match, but he punted horribly in Game 3. But he had Hall of Lost Kings cast against him twice. And you know what's better than 2 pretty large bodies? It's 5 pretty large bodies.
Well, 5/5/5s is nothing to scoff at, as we've seen from the Witching Hour. Yes. Usually you got to pay 24 for that to get anywhere close to that amount of spread and size.
0, 24, they're about the same number.
All right, so the other decks that we saw was Praxis Midrange, was the top contender. Again, 7 decks is not that huge a representation, just about 10% of the metagame, and it performed adequately.
Better than last week, still sub 50%.
I don't think there was a Praxis deck in top 8. That doesn't sound
no.
right.
No, there wasn't.
Yeah, so missed top 8, had a negative win rate there. Huru midrange, firing back, only had a 44% midrange. The more successful Huru version was the version that pretended it wasn't Huru. Time Justice Primal midrange, you just can't get rid of it. Only 5 people brought it, but it had a 60% win rate and 2 copies in the top 8. So we'll be talking about it more in depth there. EP midrange, omnipresent as always, and the winner's deck, Icaria Blue, I imagine Trumpets buffed up that win rate a fair amount.
Yes, he went 8-1 in the event overall. With a small sample size, when you have a player like putting in that result, it's going to skew the results a little bit. Mm-hmm. Same for Found Control. Racerman went undefeated in the Swiss and then fell out in the top 8. But with a sample size of 3 decks, someone making it 6-0 in the Swiss is going to skew those stats a little bit too.
Yeah, especially since the other fell decks lost early on and bailed out.
Yeah.
To keep the win rate dream alive. So the good news for both fans and players is that we had an upswing in the number of registrants that were there. Mm-hmm. 63 from last week's 56 or something.
Yes.
And since the usual pattern in the season is you get the slow drop off from week to week, the fact that we're bouncing back is pretty good. And the top 8 was really cool this weekend. I'm excited to talk about the deck, something that
But
was less excited to do last week, but
real quick, RNG, we might have something to say that might increase our numbers a little bit, right? Or should we not talk about that?
we literally cannot. We talked about not talking about this, but
Shh.
all right. So all rekenner has done for the last 2 days is gone, pick something completely politically incorrect, and be like, "Can I headline with this?" No, Rek, you can't.
All right. So let's talk about our decks that made the top 8.
Do we have a top 8 list somewhere?
Yes.
Did we make that one?
Yes.
All right. Cool. It wasn't up on the screen.
Yeah. Sorry. So as we can see, we had Racerman 6-0 in the Swiss, as I mentioned. Although unfortunately, he did fall down in the quarterfinals to Vampas on Argenport Midrange. We had Blastard playing FJP Control. And you might be thinking, wait, isn't that just Icaria Blue? And I'll say kind of, but he wasn't running Icaria. Instead, he was running a bit more spicy of a win condition, but we'll get to that in a second.
Mm-hmm.
He unfortunately did not make it past the semifinal, or past the quarterfinals. We had Dr. Stein on Praxis Rally, which we've seen a little bit of a resurgence of. Tin Man was streaming a similar deck. If you've been around since set 1, you kind of saw Praxis tokens way back when, but it's a little different of a deck. We'll talk about it a little more in detail. Of course, we saw Trumpets 5-1 on Icaria Blue, both Pupicitus and Flash on TJP Midrange, although very slightly different. Suno on FTS Moment, making it all the way to the finals, and Vampus on Argenport Midrange, making it to the semi-finals.
I think that's the second time that Vampus has snuck in on 4-2 with a mid.
I believe you are correct, actually. Yeah.
I think he did that last week as well. Yeah, or week 1, one of those two. So he's picking up the points there, and Trumpets is he's been on a bit of a tear with Icaria Blue, and
yes.
we'll pop over to the deck list now to talk about it a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, he made second with it, if I'm remembering correctly, in Season 1. He took it to the Season 1 Invitational.
Mm-hmm.
It was the deck he used to earn, if not all, the vast majority of his IP in Season 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely his comfort deck, and he'll talk about that a little bit in the interview we recorded with him, and we'll be showing a little bit later.
So a couple of interesting choices in here. Caleb's choice in the main deck is definitely something that stands out. Doesn't counter Moment, worth noting, but good against
Indeed.
all the other spells that are running around in that deck, for the most part, as well as dealing with some of the attachments that have been popping up a bit. Praxis Rally decks. Praxis in general is moving a bit back onto the Obelisk plan, which can be problematic. Caleb's choice takes care of that. And a singleton copy of Polymorph in the main deck is an interesting one.
Yeah, I found Polymorph to be a little bit more useful in Icaria Blue myself recently. There's just a lot of cards that just killing isn't good enough. Obviously Icaria Blue, Night and Shadow, doesn't have access to In Cold Blood, but sometimes you just want a Polymorph to answer an annoying Dawnwalker or a Makto in a game that's gone long.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, if your opponent has played Makto, turn 5, 6, 7, or Dawnwalker, turn 3, 4, 5, one Polymorph isn't going to be enough. But say your opponent plays a Dawnwalker, gets harsh ruled away, it comes back a few turns later. By that time, you've played like a Wisdom, you've dug a little bit, you found your Polymorph, and you can answer it permanently at not too great of a disadvantage.
So really, it's sort of standing in for the fact that the deck's not playing any main deck Silence.
It has one Valkyrie Enforcer.
Oh. Okay, well then it's standing in for the fact that the deck is not playing 2 Valkyrie Enforcers.
With 4 Rise to the Challenge, you can afford to play a little bit of a Silver Bullet package. This one's only really running Valkyrie Enforcer as the one of Silver Bullet. I've seen people experiment with the idea of Miner's Musket in case you want a weapon you can equip after playing Rise to the Challenge on 6 power. You rise for it and then you equip it immediately, but that's a little more sketchy.
So somebody was complaining before that Rise for the Challenge isn't really the engine card that it looks like it is. It's actually just your extra rune hammers and Icarias, and sometimes to kill somebody at die show.
Yes.
But you know, it's much more like there's 8 Icarias in that deck than there is that there are 5 copies of Valkyrie Enforcer. Since
Yeah.
Rise for Enforcer is not really the strongest of plays.
Yeah, it's kind of an emergency play. It's it answers an immediate threat, but then in the Valkyrie Enforcer usually gets answered pretty easily. But there are some dire situations where you just need a silence right then and there, so it can make sense to run a one-up Valkyrie Enforcer. I would say it's only correct in maybe 1 in 100 cases you cast Rise. I see it happen a little bit too often. Every time I see a 5/3 Valkyrie Enforcer on ladder, I'm usually just like, I don't know if that was right. But
holding an ornate katana. I don't know if that was right either.
Yeah,
but otherwise a relatively standard Ikaria blue list here.
Yeah.
Nothing too spicy going on that's going to reinvent the archetype, and just sort of a fairly broad sideboard of select answers to bring in. No real transformative game plan or anything. Just broadening the array of things that it could answer.
I really think that the one really kind of spicy thing is that it is in fact running the 4 Ikaria, and it's running a Sword of the Sky King. It's definitely a more over the top for mid-range and control style of deck. You definitely don't want this main board against aggro. Trumpets and I talk about that a little bit later. That's how he's skewing his deck. He expects to lose game 1 versus aggro, and then he'll sideboard in against aggro for games 2 and 3 and carry on the weight of that. He's only running 3 Hailstorm in the main. Things like that.
Well, the good news is that there wasn't that much aggro on the ladder or on the tournament circuit that week,
Exactly,
as we discuss every week. Not the most popular of decks of deck archetypes, so you can get away with a fair amount.
Yeah, rest in peace, aggro. 2016 to the printing of Hailstorm.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, so let's move on to something a little bit spicier and out there.
Yeah.
The second place deck, the deck that we were all rooting for.
Well,
if only because it was so spicy.
I mean, I was rooting for Ikaria Blue, but I'm an unrepentant Ikaria Blue fanboy, as we all know. But yeah, this was the Fire Time Shadow Moment list. It is, it doesn't have the Hall of Lost Kings in the main deck, unfortunately. But it definitely sides that in a decent amount of its matchups. I saw it being cast in a lot of the later matches that I saw it in. You can see, it runs a little bit of life gain that it can sideboard into, like the Lumen Defender was kind of the usual way I saw Hall of Lost King get activated. And it's going to bring the Hall of Lost, or the Lumen Defender in against kind of mid-range where, yeah, sure, the life gain isn't spectacular, but it's, a deadly blocker. It can answer a Titan, answer, a moment token. It, blocks Mystic Ascent from being able to attack. If a World Bear Behemoth swings into it, yeah, you'll splash 1 damage over, but it's dying to do so. That sort of thing. We've been seeing a lot of Lumen Defender or Devoted Thurge in sideboards as a way, in these moment decks. And both have their ins and outs versus, if you're against aggro versus mid-range, et cetera, et cetera.
So the build of this deck is actually super cool because the deck is called FTS Moment, and it's an almost perfect copy of FTP Moment. Just, shunted through Google Translate a little. Instead of Equivocate, you've got Vera's Choice. Instead of your Permafrost, you've got Sabotage in that slot. Wisdoms become quarries. Instead of not playing any removal spells at all, you play in Cold Blood and Banish, which I hear aren't bad.
Strategize also becomes quarry, and Trailblaze also becomes quarry.
Okay, so maybe you don't have the card draw, but you're playing removal spells, and it's got the same Sandstorm Titan's the best card ever printed on 4. Not necessarily true, but it's a hell of a 4-drop. And then you got the Heart Moment curve at the top end to go over top of anybody who's trying to trying to beat you there. And I
Yeah.
mean, FTP proved that this curve can work,
Yeah.
and this is a much harder removal take on it, less card drawy, but it also does a lot less dirtling and a lot less dying to Argenport decks.
Yes. You know, I played this deck on ladder, and you really do enjoy the ability to cast Banish. You know, of course, it doesn't answer a Chronwatch Paladin, but hey, what spell does? Well, I guess Decimate can, but no. But you know, if you you know
FTP
when
Moment
you
sideboard tech for the aggro decks.
yep when you see an unseen commando have a bloodletter thrown onto it, yeah, sure, you can equivocate it in FTP Moment, but in FTS Moment, you just banish it. It's gone. You know, and Banish answers a hell of a lot of cards at the moment. You know, answering a Titan, answering a Rune Hammer, answering an Obelisk feels real good. Like, it's been a long time since I've had the chance to play Banish because Xenon's been a little sketchy feeling to me recently because of the lack of crests. So Banish feels really good right now. Another thing that feels pretty good is Ion, which is an answer to Chronwatch Paladin, and people have kind of forgotten about, you know, wait, my opponent that has, you know, a time and 2 shadow and 3 open power, should I swing with my 2/1? And people have kind of forgotten that that's maybe a bad idea. I've definitely caught some people off guard. You know, just you ambush in the Ion, you put it in front of their Crown Watch Paladin, and if they don't have a torch, they get real sad. Ion, of course, also a very good combo with Moment of Creation tokens. You know, you can, if you
Bring
this
them
deck,
back as very large men.
yes. This deck doesn't have the spell density that FTP Moment does. So your tokens, you know, don't get up to the, like, you know, absurd 12, 13, 14 range.
It's not an 8/8 on 7, essentially.
Yeah. It's usually going to be more like a 6/6 or 7/7, but realistically, those are usually good enough. But then, you know, you play an Ion, end of turn, you untap with 8 power, you bring back a 10/10 Moment token, and you're suddenly your 3-drop that's good against aggro is now really good against that control deck that you've bled out of resources because you've, you know, played a Titan into a Behemoth or a Heart or a Mystic Ascendant. You know, you've made 2 Moment tokens, and they had an emergency Harsh rule. Now they're out of stuff. So I've definitely got a lot of concessions from Ion bring back Moment token. Now I will say, where this deck is, you know, the upside to not running the primal draw spells is it doesn't, you know, have to dirtle, but it also doesn't have quite as much control over what it draws. You know, it feels like your individual card quality is just a bit higher, especially if your sabotages and Vara's choices are hitting. But you have a little bit more of a propensity to flood out or not quite draw as many power as you need, or not get your influence handled quite as easily.
Welcome to Stonescar, the control deck.
Yeah.
As well as Xenon, the control deck to an extent, although those generally play a lot more Mystic Ascendants and cross a lot more fingers. This version of the Moment deck is much worse in the late game than you expect a Moment deck to be, which is kind of a funny thing to say, but Moment in this particular deck isn't that much better a card than Heart of the Vault, and most decks can answer a Heart of the Vault nowadays without folding. So where this deck really shines is that it's good at crushing mid-range.
Yeah, it definitely spikes a little bit earlier. You know, if you think of like a power curve, you know, this is a, you know, it peaks a little bit later than mid-range, but it peaks a bit earlier than like your FTP Moments or like a Karia Blue.
So what's really cool is that this is a legitimate option. I think even from this build here, the deck list is refined enough that you could take this, punch it into some mid-range decks, and have a good time.
Oh yeah.
Which really broadens the range of strategies that you can use and need to prepare for the next DTS, because, you know, people like FTP Moment, but FTP Moment isn't doing so well. So I would not be surprised if we have some bandwagoners for the FTS version coming up.
You know, and personally, in playing this list on ladder, you know, I'm a bit too much of a fan of card draw and counter spells. I like FTP Moment a little bit more. But you know, if I were to bring this into a tournament setting, I'd really have to sit down, and think, all right, what's better versus, which is better, FTP or FTS versus a laundry list of decks. And FTP Moment really does struggle against Huru and TJP Midrange. And I don't think this deck will struggle nearly as much against those.
We'll have to see how this deck ends up faring against the new version of Huru, the one with time, but we're not quite there yet. Before we talk about that, we're going to take a look back at the Ikaria Blue without Ikaria.
Yes.
Blastard's FJP control deck, which is mostly notable because this top 8'd with 3 copies of Copperhall Blessing in the main, and what the hell?
Yeah, I think the last time we've seen Copperhall Blessing in a remotely serious list was way back in '16 when they decided that Excavate should be void bound.
Except they didn't call it that for literally a year and a half.
Except for back then, it just said this card cannot leave the void.
So
I cried for days.
I love my history time talk. Back then, there was a different Trailblazer than the one that you guys remember causing all those troubles with Macdo recently. The other one that also died, Elysian Trailblazer, I think? Pathfinder?
Yes, no, it's Elysian Trailblazer and Elysian Pathfinder. Pathfinder is the unit echo. Okay. Trailblazer is the spell echo.
Okay, so the Trailblazer was giving this little card called Excavate Echo, which allowed you to bring back a different echoed Excavate, which gave you infinite access to your void.
Provided you had a Staff of Stories or other way to draw multiple cards per turn, otherwise it kind of depleted your hand eventually down to 0.
Which, given deck building and infinite access to the void, was usually not that difficult to set up. An echoed Wisdom of the Elders was generally the preferred option. And it was a cool combo to pull off, and it did win the game because you brought back Harsh Rule until your opponent ran out of cards, and then you killed them with Sword of the Sky King. But then somebody decided, what if we took out the Sword of the Sky King, and instead we killed them by playing Copperhall Blessing over and over until the opponent conceded?
What happens if we take out every way for the deck to win, made it way weaker versus a number of cards, and made it a weaker deck, but made it way more annoying?
Some of you who are playing Hearthstone right now may remember this as Shudderwalk.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it was used in an infinite fog combo where it just fogged every turn.
Yeah.
There were a couple of ways to not draw cards, so it was very easy to get into a stalemate with that. Whenever 2 of these decks faced each other, it was very dumb. Because unless you were paying main deck backlashes, you couldn't win or lose. Essentially. So
to be fair, the original Excavate version usually did because it could afford to. But.
Yes, and needed them for the mirror, which was good. But basically, the point here is, I'm not sure why Copperhall Blessing is in this list.
Yeah. I'll be honest. It's probably just kind of a stall tactic card. It's the idea of, I think, being, you play Copperhall Blessing on a turn where otherwise you would just be dead on turn 4 or turn 5 if you have a depleted power. Then the next turn you Harsh Rule. It's kind of an Eye of Winter that can hit units with endurance. Kind of.
It does play a little bit with weapons, in that you can prevent your weapons from losing armor by turning yourself invincible on your turn. But there's only really Auric Runehammer and Sword of the Sky King in this particular list, which means that probably wasn't a main consideration. Yeah. So stall time for Harsh Rules 4 and 5 is the best that I could say. I didn't actually personally see any of the games. But the other half of the deck that is worth highlighting beyond the question mark around that is the fact that this deck tossed the Ikaria route and just went for Flamestoker.
Yeah.
Sir Rhino had a period where this was the best card in the game. So he will not be surprised to see 4 copies of it here. Other people have said, what if they play 1 Sandstorm Titan? Which, some people think is a reasonable argument, but
I was going to talk about that.
All right, take us away.
Yeah, I was going to say this deck kind of folds a little bit to the little-known card, Sandstorm, Titan, or anything that just has more than 5 health. Blastar ran into Suno in the top 8, and Suno just kind of quickly 3-0'd. If you're playing against a time mid-range style deck, Flamestoker goes from looking like an infinite generator of 5/5 death tokens into something that gets effectively completely deleted by a 4-drop. Really, against other like hard control decks that don't have big bodied units, Flamestoker feels pretty great. If maybe Feln can outrace you with a Black Sky Harbinger, but most control decks that are low on units just kind of go, oh, that's a card I can't beat. Banish doesn't hit it. Very few decks are running Disjunction or Banish or anything, or sorry, not Banish, Decay. Banish is a good card. Decay, we don't talk about Decay.
I think you mean Disjunction.
Yes, I said Disjunction. If I didn't, then I'm sorry.
But you also said Decay, which...
Yeah, that's... No. But, once you run into a deck playing Titan or Heart of the Vault or Moment tokens, and as soon as you can't answer one of those, your Flamestoker as win condition starts to look real bad. And, he has 2 Channel of the Tempest, he has a Sword of the Sky King, but, and he can board into a 3rd Channel of the Tempest, and maybe he can, unseal a Moment of Creation, things like that in the post-board games, but generally speaking, against most time mid-range decks, you can possibly go over the top of, Praxis or Elysian with an average draw, because you still are a harsh rule deck. You still are running a lot of removal that beats them in terms of tempo. You're running the standard 4 strategize, 4 wisdom of the elder to refuel, but against the slightly bigger mid-range that have a lot more answers to block your tokens and aren't going to run out of cards, your Flamestoker just kind of gets embarrassed.
So there is the small argument that Flamestoker is pretty good at beating Feln, but then there's the realization that what isn't, and Akaria is also real good at beating Feln, and just sort of in general seen as the stronger win condition in multiples. However, not playing Akaria does free you up that you don't need to play any Rise from the Challenge and leaves you free to play other 4-drops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, running Runehammer without Rise to the Challenge or Artisan means, 4-1 Runehammer is okay.
You're playing a Huru Runehammer instead of a Rakano Runehammer, essentially,
right?
Which is a much weaker card.
Not getting access to 6-1 Runehammers or, with an Artisan like a 5-1 Runehammer or a 6-3 Runehammer, the card loses a lot of value. I've played Huru Control with Runehammer, and, you draw it on like turn 7 or 8, and you go, why is this card in my deck? What's it do?
You don't usually want 4 there, but it does show that people are not just sticking to the tried and true Akaria Blue style of thing, and they are branching out a bit.
Yep.
And this is a top 8 level list. One of the 5-1s, I believe. So yes. Can't fault it too much.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting idea, and I really think it does have a lot of good ideas going for it. It's just, I feel like it could just have a better sideboard strategy versus decks that can just infinitely block a Moment token without losing anything. If Heart of the Vault blocks a Moment token and it gets torched, well, you're just like, well, great. I traded, kind of 1-for-1, except my Heart of the Vault drew me a card. Or, even if a Titan happens, it's still a 1-for-1 trade in terms of just pure cards. And sometimes it's really all you need.
Right.
But the finding a way to put a second Channel of the Tempest into the sideboard, finding a way to fit in maybe a second Sword of the Sky King, probably shores up those matchups a little bit, but it might just not be enough.
Yeah, we'll have to see how this deck evolves going forward. It's at very least an interesting take. It's a real shame that we couldn't get in contact with Blaster to find out why the Copper Hall Blessing, but we'll have to speculate on it. But moving on,
fortunately, the spice keeps on coming.
Yes. We have another newcomer to the ETS in terms of card, but this is a closed beta card that the only change was it went from rare to legendary.
Yep.
Way back in the day, but this is its first ETS top 8. I'm talking about Shogun of the Wastes.
Yeah.
For those of you who didn't play Forge very often, you've never heard of this card. It is a 3/3 double damage that on summon gives all your other units double damage.
Affectionately referred to as Rally number 5 and 6.
Well, what's that Praxis 5-drop gives
General
all your
Zalio?
+1/+1?
Oh, Praxis Arcanum Monitor.
Arcana Monitor. Yeah, it's a lot closer to Arcana Monitor in token decks a lot of the time. But I mean, double damage is cool,
Yes.
and it's. I mean, a 3/3 double damage is not nothing.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I watched the games between Dr. Stein and Suno in the top 8, and it actually seemed like a very Suno disfavored matchup. He went 0-2, and then post board he goes from 2 main deck sweepers to 5, and suddenly he pulled a reverse sweep. It really looked like Praxis Tokens was gonna make it all the way to the finals. But really calling this Praxis Tokens is slightly different. Again, I kind of talked a little bit earlier. We did see a Praxis Tokens list back in set 1 after Arcanum Monitor, a promo card in advance of set 2 coming out when Praxis actually got real support. But it was a very different list. It was running Oni Ronin, Rakano Outlaw. It didn't curve up past maybe 1 or 2 General Izalios. It didn't have the Heart of the Vaults. Obviously, that card wasn't released yet.
yeah, historically they've curve topped at about 4 for Obelisk or Displacer or Marison's Disciple cards like that. Played a lot more Obliterates. This deck is a lot more in the mid-range sort of area of the spectrum where it's very heavy on the 3 and 4 slots, but it's also playing. Initiative Sands was always a mainstay of these Praxis lists to allow them to push ahead aggressively, but now you've got a couple Trailmakers too to boost you up. Although hitting 3 is really your key number. We see Amber Acolyte, everyone's favorite Seek power, sort of filling out the curve because this deck goes all the way to Heart of the Vault, which is a very interesting option for a rally deck, exchanging some of its speed for some late game sustainability. Warping into Heart of the Vault after your board gets harsh ruled feels pretty good.
Yeah. This deck isn't the Goldfish you on turn 4 or turn 5 style of deck. And while it can have those explosive draws, I've played maybe 5 or 10 games with this on ladder back when Tin Man posted a similar-ish list. It's like it's pretty good. I can see where it gets its strength from. It very quickly ramps you up with between the 6 mana dorks, the access to to extra power via Amber Acolyte, and sometimes you'll go real wide and rally. Sometimes you will do your best Praxis mid-range imitation. You'll drop Displacer, Heart of the Vault, swing through that way. But it just kind of feels like a list that's maybe a little more resilient versus Hailstorm, in that Heart of the Vault doesn't die to it. A decent number of your cards will survive if you've got, depending on the number of Anthem effects you've got.
Well, not a whole lot of them.
Well,
but,
you're almost always going to get a 3/3 Overwhelm with this. So if you play a Marison's Disciple, you'll get a 4/4 token that will survive. Your Shogun of the Wastes will survive. So your more expensive cards will survive.
Yep. Also interesting, there are no monuments in the deck. Waystone with the Granite Waystones instead for additional go wide. Normally you see an Amber Monument or something as like a backup plan to punch through.
Yeah.
But just Granite Waystones here. And speaking of doing your best Praxis mid-range impression, look at that transformational sideboard plan. Titans, Shatterglass Mages, Behemoths, Carnosaurs. If the rally plan doesn't work out, you can just side into a proper Praxis deck. Now,
I will say, if you're doing that, you're definitely going to be a lot weaker to like something like Hailstorm than Praxis midrange normally is. I am personally of the opinion that mana dorks in a midrange deck are suboptimal at the moment because Hailstorm does exist. Every time you Hailstorm away an Initiate of the Sand plus Trailmaker or 2 Initiates, you kind of feel like you have just won the game on the spot, and usually that is the case. But of course, in the rally version where you need all the go wide you can get, they make a lot more sense. But in in a Praxis mid-range list, this deck is only running 25 hard power. It's only running 3 Amber Acolytes. You're not going to reliably cast your 5 and 6 drops on that power unless you're running those mana dorks.
So it just gives the deck another way to attack rather than smashing into hailstorms and whatnot. And people generally have been hesitant to go with transformational sideboard plans. I know we highlighted one on an earlier episode of Best of Three.
Yeah.
And it's just nice to always catch them when people are like full on the plan. Transformational sideboard, not usually something that people dedicate like 5-10 slots to because it's not really transformational enough. But this is enough of a hard commitment to be worth calling out.
Yeah. And so I think we're gonna finish up with our last deck highlight. We've been doing a whole lot of deck highlights today with a new take on an old favorite.
Favorite in quotes, of course, yes. Yeah. TJP, the deck that will not die.
As RNGee referred to it, TJP PTSD.
Yes, because the last time a TJP mid-range deck became a thing, it was not well suited for that tournament, and then it won it. But what do I know? So it turns out if you print enough pushed cards in the colors of Time, Justice, and Primal, which have the best fixing of all of the factions, people will just shove them all together in a deck and call it good. And this is an example of people shoving them all together in a deck and calling them good.
Yeah, this deck is really an evolution of it is an evolution of the old TJP midrange deck, but it's more of an evolution of the Huru midrange deck from last week.
Yes.
You take a look at this list and you see, a lot of the Huru midrange top end. There is 2 iterations of this list, both from Team OND. This is Flash's list in particular. I kind of flipped a coin in terms of which list I was going to highlight. Pupicitus is running Crown Watch Paladin and Nostrix over Awakened Student and Great Parliament.
This list is a little bit heavier on the time than the other one.
Yeah.
But let's just go down this, shall we? Let's look at all the pushed legends. So you start with your Kothan, which is a 2-drop or an 8-drop, depending on who you talk to. Then you go Huru Pacifier. I hear that card's a little.
Is Huru Pacifier a legend?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's from the Dead Reckoning, so you don't really notice until you try to craft premiums. Stand Together, not a legend, but in a world where Protect costs 2, you want to be playing Stand Together.
More like in a world where Harsh Rule is trying to be the card that kills Huru midrange.
And can't.
Exactly.
Because Huru midrange already has a million Aegis units, although this deck, a lot fewer. We've seen Unseen Commando do work in Huru before. Valkyrie Enforcer's the mainstay. Sheltering Rider, this 5/5 Aegis Flyer, I hear pretty good.
Yes.
Amelie has done some work for Flyers decks in the past. In Great Parliament, hey, you want to flood out? Well, I've got Kothan and Great Parliament to cover me. I'm not sure if Great Parliament is quite the card that you want, since I feel like this deck does not hit power all that often to be worth it. But
well, being a flex slot, 4-drop, 4/4 flyer, or a late game anti-flood card. Yeah, 4/4 flyer for 4 is not like the best rate in the universe. When you compare it to like Sheltering Rider.
But it's still a good way to rebuild against control, especially as control is the games where it goes long, and you can build up to that with your Kothans and things. And we didn't cover them, but Awakened Student is a hell of a beater, and hey, Equivocate and Permafrost are it's pretty damn good removal, and you got some Vanquishes too, just in case somebody tries to stick a Tavrod. So the power's pretty good. You only need the single time for anything. So you're only on 6 total influence because you need triple justice for a milli.
Yeah, and of course in the sideboard it does have Nostrix, and in Pupicitus's version you need the Nostrix in the main you need 3 primal.
And Thunderstrike Dragon as well. But especially in the early stages, you need double justice on 3, and other than that you're mostly okay.
Yeah.
So it's not stretching too far compared to what we usually see.
There's no Inhibit of the Sands and 7 time sigils.
Yeah, and there's no Diplo Seal, so ET did not build this deck. Although they're probably jealous of this deck because this deck actually looks quite solid. And TJP Midrange was kind of ET's thing for a while. So
I'm sure we'll see an ET version of the deck coming soon to a Reddit front page near you.
yes, and probably to the ETS, as this deck looks really solid against what a lot of people are doing. It flies
Yeah.
over the decks that are coming down. Aggro just smashes into a bunch of cards, and we've seen Unseen Commando do very unfair things to aggro in the past. It's got the best removal. It's got stand together if you're trying to play a harsh rule deck. It's got the best beaters. This deck kind of does it all, and the power base does not raise a lot of questions. Unusual for these kinds of 3-faction aggro decks. Although this one is more of a mid-range one. It's even playing 4 Seek power.
Oh, I will say it is running 3 Common Cause, which is maybe a little interesting. It is, of course, kind of going on the Unseen as
So you have 16
tribal.
Unseen.
Yeah.
And then 8 Valkyries, I think, is the only other thing.
Yes. So it's maybe not as reliable as, like, old gunslingers that had 24 gunslingers. Any 2 units were basically enough. But it's still good enough.
Yeah, kind of helps you on that turn too, and later in the game you don't really care. And hey, you've got the Seek powers to fill in the gaps in any case. Might be a little bit more effective if Great Parliament was a different unit. Maybe a Valkyrie, maybe an Unseen, but just a different take.
Yeah. All right. We actually had a quick chat question. No real phone control discussion. The list, while it did 6-0, it was kind of a stock Feln list. Although if we do want to talk about Feln a little bit, I will say every time I saw Feln cast Rain of Frogs, it lost the game. So quick sideboard tip for the future. If you have removal versus Archetype Midrange as an option, you should probably put it in. I hate Rain of Frogs categorically, so take that advice with a grain of salt.
There's only so many times you can repeat the closed beta saying of, Champion of Cunning is a busted card. Feln has no other cards. And people continue to run a 1-card deck before you just...
Yeah.
Like, it's an exaggeration, but it's not that much of a one, because the cards that you're playing in Feln are not Feln specific. There's no other multi-faction card other than Rindra that's worth it, and people stop playing Rindra.
Yeah.
So
it's basically the what we consider the only shell for In Cold Blood. Of course, we saw In Cold Blood in FTS Moment, so that is becoming less true. Yeah.
So we may have finally found a shell to punish the Justice decks.
Yep. But on that note, let's go ahead and talk about the Season 2 Invitational, which is starting to loom a little bit closer in the minds of players. We're starting to see some players make good runs in terms of, invitational points. As we're starting to see, our winners shaping up. So we're starting to see some stratification in terms of how the IP are distributed.
Last season was the season of the rookies, with the rookies taking all the top slots. Now we've got some players firing back. I don't believe Puppy went to Worlds, but I know all 3 of the other top 4 players were Worlds players. Child Rolling continues his good runs in 2018 after a pretty solid run in 2017 as well. So his dominance is there. Ilya K finally finding his feet again a little bit, pushing himself back up there. Moosh doing well, and Seafood and Flash are all old timers as well.
And we used to see Ilya topping the IP charts basically every season. That stopped being the case for a little while, but now it looks like he's starting to make some runs again.
So, the story so far is, if you're a rookie, well, you're going to have a much easier time this season than you were last season getting to those rookie slots, as they're going to be a lot more attainably down the curve, at least so far.
Yeah.
And we congratulated him before, but congratulations to both Tin Man and Trumpets for securing their 2nd invitational in a row, making them, repeat invitationalists and letting them sit back on their laurels a little bit.
Yep. And speaking of overall performance, let's take a real quick look at the SP leaderboard. We didn't cover it last week just because there wasn't really many changes, and there still aren't really too many changes now. We see Trumpets punching his way onto the top 12. We've seen a few more
top 5,
points. Yes.
even.
But he just wasn't on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Before this. We've seen a little bit of jockeying here and there, 1 or 2 points. Alarmadillo grabbing a point. I believe Child Roland grabbing a point. But this really kind of looks fairly similar to after the Season 1 Invitational. Yeah.
Which, there's so many points being tossed around at that time that it's not a huge surprise that we're seeing it there. But
yeah.
From the way that things are looking up, it's pretty clear that you're going to need like 15 plus points if you want to go to All Stars, and if you want to be in the top 10 post Invitational, you're going to need at least if you want to be in the top 10 after Invitational, and probably 20 points if you want to go to All Stars.
Yeah.
Based on SB, as quite a few players have collected a number of points with multiple top strong results. So we're seeing a lot of consistency out of our players, and that combined with the smaller tournaments is really making the players who put in the time and effort stand out.
Yeah. And so now, speaking of All-Stars and other kind of fun tournaments, we had the player draft phase, the actual draft phase for our player draft tournament on Sunday. With our production hiccup over the weekend, we couldn't stream it. But, fortunately, Sifu Danny kind of covered for our inability to stream on Saturday, covered a lot of the ETS. So special thanks, shout out to him. And a special thanks and shout out to Yodabyte, who broadcast the draft, the player communications, kind of commented on what was going on Sunday. He did a really good job.
So,
but yeah,
yeah.
RNGEternal, do you want to explain, what the player draft was, real quick?
So this was a bit of a rough weekend. My computer died. Rec died, sort of. And
I'm doing the moving cross-country thing this weekend.
Our producer,
I'm not moving this weekend. I'm moving next weekend.
Our producer was MIA, which unfortunately meant that one of the most anticipated events of this season that we had set up a ton of stuff for lost all its stuff. We were going to do a pre-draft where we went down player rankings, did draft predictions. It was going to be super cool. We were going to Xenorath put together this big sticker thing over the weekend for a live draft thing. Instead, we used a Google Sheet, and it was a lot less exciting. But I can hit you with some of the highlights. Ilya K got moved into a captain position at the very last minute, and quite proudly declared at 9th pick that he was going to draft Child Roland, no questions asked. Child Roland was drafted 6th overall, which made this a bit of a difficult pick to pick up, but we had that here. So the player draft tournament, everybody registered in. A couple of people got picked to be team captains. We ended up with 12 teams. And all the remaining players who were not team captains were drafted one by one by the team captains in order to build out their teams of 5. Although we ended up a couple players short, and some teams will be playing with a sub.
Yeah.
So we have the teams in front of you. And we have, instead of doing it before the draft, we have listed these teams in order of what strength we feel them, which teams we feel to be the strongest.
We is a little strong there. RNGE made this list, and
I made this list, and
we're gonna have a discussion about where we disagree. We figured that would actually be the more interesting thing than coming together with a combined power rankings.
So I'm going to start with the most controversial ranking for many. But definitely another major draft one, which would have been all over Reddit if people saw the draft, but they didn't. So Kamado in 12th place with a D ranking.
Kamado, you had one job.
So
one job.
I mean, he drafted
Komodo.
He drafted Paradox and 2 others, and I mean, world champion Paradox was one of my top players. So you got 2 of the best players in the game right now combined. Last place team. You know why?
Yep.
Because Kamado drafted Paradox over Komodo. And then Ilya K, I can't say it on stream, but fucked it up and picked Komodo in the 2nd pick just before Kamado was going to pick him, and just ruined all the synergy.
I mean, I don't think it's reasonable to expect Komodo to wheel. If you're in Komodo's position, I don't think it's reasonable. I think Komodo went pretty late.
there were a lot of people saying stuff like, I expect Moosh to wheel, and I don't know. People's expectations were all over the place. So we had it set up. We were going to have the Komodo team. They were going to cosplay as each other. It was going to be amazing. And
Komodo has been practicing his ja for weeks.
They have the same picture.
Yeah. So, they're both a Cub Island.
So with that falling through, this was the greatest flavor fail of the draft and an instant D-ranking, which puts them all the way to the bottom.
Yep. Of course, no, jokes aside, Paradox is a great player. He's a great deck builder. He's kind of one of the hearts behind SPG. Galgamation's been showing up in some recent ETS events. Both Galgamation and CK had pretty interesting blurbs. Komodo himself is, if not the best player, in the top 3 pilots in terms of decks, and he's also a deck builder. So really, of course, putting him down at D is a bit of a joke. But if you expect Komodo's team to go out early, or they fall to some early losses, I think you're a little mistaken.
But without Komodo, the heart of the team is gone, and they don't have any reason to succeed anymore.
Yeah.
So we'll pop back up to the top of the draft. I think HeyYu is the top team of the event, not only because in my predicted pick order I had him taking Tin Man 6th overall, and that's exactly what he did. He also snuck off with Sifu Danny and Tarad, the Felon Specialist, as well as Tridim, who was originally scheduled to be a captain. So that's a full 5 members of the team that I think are quite good. And Tin Man's been on a tear since a couple weeks leading up to the first invitational. Sifu Danny's good. Harad, he's a specialist, but you really want specialists in this tournament with the deck building restrictions, because you can just toss them a Felon-like deck, and between them and Tin Man, like they got that covered. So if there's a playable Felon deck,
covered,
they will find it and discard it and play something with 3 factions instead.
So I can definitely agree that HeyYu's team is one of the strongest teams in the event. I'm not going to contest that. Same with Finkel's team. Finkel himself, of course, is the player mistaken for Johnny Magic. He's not Johnny Magic, but he's almost as good.
Well, when it comes to Eternal, he's pretty good. He's one of the best deck builders in the game. Yes. And specifically deck tuners. Almost nobody can match him when it comes to tuning control decks. He picked Tony G 2nd overall, which huge question marks around that, not least by Tony G himself. He went about a round early. But picking up, Emma's and Mancy, we had him on the show as a winner. And Letter Swords. I know it's letters words, but I'm contractually obliged to say that.
I mean, letter swords is kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
He misplaced the capitalization.
He added the capitalization after everybody called him swords for so long. Actually, he's a longtime player, been around since closed beta. He's pretty good. In the same vein as level 13 Vavid or Suckleg. He's been around since the beginning. So they are playing with a sub, which is why
Letters Words as a 3rd round pick. Maybe a little late of a pick, but we had actually a lot of really good 2nd and 3rd round picks.
Which is why a lot of these teams got high ranked. Finkel did have a sub, which limits his power a bit, but Thundershot did not, and I think Thundershot made out pretty well. David as the first pick is definitely a solid player there, and Sunny going 3rd round is just criminal.
Really, I think all of the Alamals went a little later than I thought they should. While ETS Team League was a little under the radar compared to standard ETS, I think the fact that all of those players have shown themselves very good at working in a team environment should have maybe held a little bit more weight in the minds of captains. I was very surprised to see most of them go in the 3rd round.
Mm-hmm. Now, Platypus King was our first overall pick, and
I will say, of course, Thundershot's team mostly held down by the captain himself. He's probably going to throw Felon Cauldron into one of the decks. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, there were some dreams about drafting a meme team that fell apart pretty early, and I think he ended up with a solid roster regardless.
Yeah.
We
gave Thundershot's team an A, and I think he's not quite 3rd place. I think it would actually bump King Breath up a number of slots, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah.
Most overrated team on this list by rekenner is King Breath team. So Platypus King had the first overall pick, and they picked, surprise, surprise, in a list without Kamado, they picked Bruce by God first overall, and I hear that's a pretty good pick. I think we had him listed as the #1 pick overall in the draft.
Yeah.
And he was picked #1 overall. Picking up Lich King and Chipig to line out his roster again has a sub, but Bruce by God is just such a monster, especially in team events, that I put him to fourth. I put them to fourth place mostly on the back of that. Not to say that Platypus King is any sledge himself or Lich King. So a solid roster, but again the sub holds them back. Then you have Alphil with a pretty media, like a middle of the road roster. GHP, quite the pilot. Arcande Soze has the team league experience. Skilled Roy, again another A Lamau who's greatly undervalued, getting to that third pec status. So a pretty solid team around there. This team, looking at it here, may have been a little bit high, but they're definitely a solid middle of the pack team there.
Yeah.
Of course, in 6th place, we have the Synergy team. Lapis Dragon took Magikarp first overall, which this was one of the more surprising first round picks, I think, for me. I expected Magikarp to go like 12th, 13th, something like that. But then Lapis Dragon picked up Blood Dragon and came through in all the ways that Kamado failed with the Dragon synergy. And I just didn't need to ask any more questions about him. Easy B+, putting him head and shoulders above all these other middle-of-the-road B teams.
All right, so let me talk about King Breath and his team and why I think he's getting a huge disservice by being all the way down in 7. So, all right, RNG is maybe a little down on King Breath in terms of strength of player, and I'm going to say, hey, Invitational Season 1 did pretty good.
Yeah.
Child Roland, he is our 2018 Series Point leader. He was at Worlds last year. He's won an Invitational. And now we're going to get to Ingenuity, who has been to 12 Magic the Gathering Pro Tours, who has won a GP, who worked at Dire Wolf Digital, should probably know the game Eternal pretty well. He was the dark horse pick. If you read the player blurbs, and
nobody did.
Yeah. Let's get a exclamation point quote 119, I believe it is, in chat.
Someone?
Yeah. He could have been a first round pick very easily.
Yeah.
And he wheeled. And so I think on the strength of Child Roland and Ingenuity alone, this team deserves a little bit better than a B.
But is that really better than Dragon Synergy?
Also, Tri-City Shogun is a very solid 4th round pick. He's not like an ETS breakout all-star, but he's played in a lot of ETS events. He's played in a lot of the deck building events, and he's never had like a breakout performance, but you often see him like in the middle of the bracket. And he's a pretty, I think he's actually one of the best 4th round picks.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely could have gone, middle, late 3rd round very easily. So I really think King Breath got away with basically one of the strongest 1st round picks, a 2nd round pick that shouldn't have wheeled, and a 4th round pick that really probably should have been a 3rd round pick. I think he got away with. I think he got away with one. I think he stole some players he shouldn't have stolen. I think he managed to pull off an insane draft. I would probably actually put him up probably somewhere, maybe like, I think I said earlier, tied with 2nd place.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would have put Finkel as Finkel's team as number 1, and like HeyYu and King Breath tied for 2nd. Of course, RNG and I disagree with that, but
so I always write the guy's name as Cheese City Shotgun. Get excited, and then it's not, and then I get less excited. So I'm maybe underrating, Child Roland, and Ingenuity is just a totally unknown player to me. So MCG success, nice and all. Let's see you win some ETS tournaments, which Child Roland has. So maybe I'm talking over myself a little bit.
Yeah.
But in 8th place, we have the Batteries lineup. Ilya K, Batteries, Komodo. Burger Blade Bullet Time. You know, three big names, two super cool names to follow them up. Definitely way better than a B, but Ilya K loses like a full ranking worth of places for taking Komodo from Kamado and screwing up the whole thing. So once again, Flavor holds the team back.
Yeah, you know, of course, Ilya, Batteries, Komodo are, you know, three of our better ETS players. You know, Ilya making it to Worlds last year, falling out on the second round of round robin, of course. You know, Batteries and Komodo.
As did Child Roland, to be fair. So
yes, of course. You know, Batteries and Komodo. You know, Komodo's been definitely in the above average. You know, he's kind of like the tier 2 trying to break into tier 1 sort of ETS player. He's not an Angry Chicken or an Unearthly, but you know, if you pay attention to the ETS at all, you should know Komodo. You know, you should.
He's still playing the game.
Ooh. Hey, Angry Chicken's back.
Coming back. Chicken's coming back, and we're all excited.
Oh yes, the highlight of week 2 was seeing Angry Chicken register for me. Really. Ninth place we have Overmaster's team. He got Moosh round 1. I think, you know, the fact that Moosh was not like, you know, first or second pick is a little impressive. He was one of our few players from Worlds that was draftable. We had a couple of captains from Worlds.
Well, I mean, if you go down the list there, Tony G and Child Roland and Tabu, and
well,
I think that's it. So four Worlds players.
Tony G was not at Worlds.
That's true. He was in the wild card. My apologies.
Yes, exactly.
Along with David and Paradox and a number of our longtime players.
Yeah.
Yeah, Overmaster.
Buffoon, also another strong but somewhat new player to the ETS scene.
Mm-hmm. And then we have Accelerate with great spelling. I hardly approve of all phonetic spelling names. Unfortunately, I wish I knew these unknown players a little bit better so that I could give them a little bit more weight. But unfortunately, I have to rank these mostly by their top 3. And I mean, Moosh is good, but at least moving into this week, it didn't look too much like his meta game. And I'm not sure if Overmaster is a hell of a deck builder, so he might be able to put together quite the lineup. But you know, we'll have to see how well they come together. Again, all these teams are pretty good, so saying somebody's underrated or overrated is kind of good. But this was a B team for me.
I think you might be underrating Overmaster's ability to build a set of 5 decks that are really strong. He has experience with a lot of cards and a lot of synergies that most people don't. And I feel like, I mean, you laugh, but he is.
I'm thinking of his means to an end combo deck that crashed the game 3 times in round 1. As promised.
Yeah. But I feel like, you know, there's a lot of different ways to build decks for this. Some teams might take we're going to build like an A, you know, an A+ deck, an A deck, and then some like C decks. Maybe hopefully one of them steals a match, right?
That C deck is highly underrated.
But I think Overmaster might be able to put together a lineup of like 5 decks into like B+
categories,
into the A- decks, and I think that actually is probably the better way to do it.
So the question is, what do you value more? Do you need to have good decks, or do you need to have good pilots to play those decks?
Ooh.
And that's the question that we're going to answer in 2 weeks.
Well,
when player draft happens.
As long as we don't have Overmaster deciding if we should make 4 owls with a grand parliament.
Oh boy,
we should be fine.
Overmaster known a little bit more for his memes and his deck building nowadays than his piloting.
Of course, Overmaster is a pretty good pilot. He has made pretty high runs into Master playing decks that other people would just kind of look at and like scratch their head and be like, that works.
Like making 3 owls.
Yes, exactly.
Instead of 4. So down in rank 10, we have Flash, who I would have to say is the person who said, wait, that was my pick the most times during the draft.
Flash may have gotten his pick stolen a little bit. Maybe he was, you know, in a slightly poor position relative to the other people in terms of drafting. You know, the snake draft format is a little interesting. But maybe he just kind of got outdrafted. And as our draft specialist, that's something we shouldn't really be saying. Maybe that position is going to be open in the near future.
He is on RNGEternal, which does lose him a couple of points since no one on that team is any good at constructed events. Drafting Tabu. I mean, Tabu's a hell of a player.
Yes.
Went deep at Worlds, so he's pretty good. Bashing Tuan, or 20 Tuan, as he prefers to be known now, is pretty good. But
Cosimo is
Patrol
a fairly high-ranking player most seasons, although they've had some trouble getting in contact with him, but I think that's been resolved.
Yeah, I heard that there may be a sub involved in this team, though, and that combined with the RNG Eternalness has led me to rank them lower than they maybe otherwise would be. But you know, Flash more known for his drafting and whatnot. The team doesn't really have a deck builder on it. Like, there's no clear answer of who's going to be building the deck, since Flash has historically, you know, played a lot more team decks than he has been a deck builder. So there's a big question mark there.
Yeah, I would call Flash a pilot and a drafter more than a deck builder. We're definitely going to have to see who builds the decks on that team and how they end up kind of scoping out their lineup. I feel like they might be a team that is a deck, A+ deck, A deck, and a handful of C decks, and hopefully one of the C decks can steal a win.
Yeah.
But maybe they'll surprise us.
So now we come to the chat's most controversial pick, which is Hulkbuster in the effective last place. Lord Foz, pretty good player. He was on the show as well. Hasn't shown up that much in the ETS proper, aside from his wins. So not too much experience on there. Suckleg, of course, another old-time player and a great second pick overall. The Rock, I mean, Dwayne Johnson, not normally known for his card games, but definitely known for getting the job done. So it's not a bad roster in theory. The problem is, well, you've got Hulkbuster as the deck builder, and I look forward to seeing 5 power bases built by Hulkbuster, played by 4 people who are not Hulkbuster.
Yeah, Hulkbuster known for his, shall we say, ambitious power bases. But, I think he actually is a good deck builder. Mm-hmm. I think Suklek is one of the underrated masterminds of EWC. Lord Foz may have been a little bit weak of a first-round pick. I have to review exactly where in the picks he was. I think maybe there's
Hulkbuster did have the 12th pick overall, so he was 13. So Suckleg and Lord Foz are just about interchangeable in which order.
True. I still think there's a couple of other second-round picks I may have taken over Lord Foz, but that's personal opinion. The Rock has been playing in ETS recently. I think he's actually a fairly solid third-round pick. Mm-hmm. So, I can kind of agree with the idea that Hulkbuster being this low is maybe a little bit of a disservice, but really, once you get past, I think if there's a few standout teams, it's really hard to rank, your teams 4 through 12 in this, honestly. If I were to have actually given a 1 through 12, I would have a lot of difficulty past like the first 3 or 4. So I think Hulkbuster ending at kind of effectively last is not really a big slight, and kind of a RNG may just not quite respect all these players as much as he should.
RNG may have built this with putting Kamato last and combining the dragons in mind, and not really thought too hard about the rest of the list.
Yeah.
Obviously, the player draft is just for fun, and everybody's picked the teams that they think will do them the best service, and not everybody knows all the players, so we'll need to see how it comes out there.
RNG bounced for a second, but I think he's back. We got what you were saying, though.
Yeah, I just said reset myself. So, we'll have to see how it goes. This is my personal rankings of how I think things are going to look like at the end. I hope Kamato has a little bit too much fun with this and crashes and burns to make this come true. But Kamato might be too good to let that happen. So we'll have to see how it ends up. But
really, this is just RNG having an excuse to flame everyone that is not in the A ranking.
That is everybody that is not Finkel.
Yeah,
Finkel's great. I love talking about Finkel. And then there's all the other captains. Yeah. Some of which are actually quite good as well.
Oh, yeah. A lot of our captains are very good.
which made the draft a little bit weird going into the
Yes.
second round.
Yes, if the captains were all in the pool, I think a lot of them would have been easy first round picks. So the strength of captains is a little skewed here. No offense to the rest of our captains, but I think Finkel and Kamado are maybe a little bit above the rest. Another kind of combo pilot deck builder threats.
So not offense, but Lapis Dragon, not really a known name, and then you throw him into a pool with people like Kamado, or even or Flash or Hulkbuster or these other well-known names, and that's a lot to live up to, both just as a team captain and in terms of results as well. So it's good that they got that he's got Dragon Synergy on his side. Okay, so we are going to leave off with the player draft power rankings for now. I think we will try to revisit these next week based on ETS results and see which of these teams won week 4 of the ETS. Just for some more fun and a little bit more hype. But we're going to cut to a short break here, and then we'll be back with a trumpets interview. So stick around. And for those of you who will be sticking around for the duration, get your sub decks ready because that was a. If you're a sub, you can submit a deck, and we will play it in a best of 3 after the interview.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Best of Three. We have an interview with Trumpets that I recorded this morning. Unfortunately for us, Trumpets lives in Macedonia, so this is kind of right now the middle of the night for him. So he could not be on the show directly, but we recorded the interview and we will be playing it right now.
Good evening. This is rekenner, and
Good.
sorry. And
Yeah.
I'm recording an interview with Trumpets, our latest ETS winner. How are you doing today, Trumpets?
I'm great actually. It's a pretty good day. Yeah.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and jump into the questions. What's your gaming background? Do you have a history playing, Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh or anything like that? Hearthstone?
Yeah. So basically all of them except Yu-Gi-Oh, and also played Pokemon for a while. I've been playing Magic mostly. So I think I've been playing Magic for almost 20 years now. I think it's around 18 years so far. And I've been playing that a lot. And I mean, I don't have many large notable finishes except locally, but we also finished top 16 at Worlds 2 years ago. So in 2016, my Team Macedonia, finished in top 16. We were very close to getting a top 8 on Worlds, so that was a really good finish for us. I've played Hearthstone as well. I played Soulforge a lot, if anyone remembers that game. I really like that one. And I'm mostly a fan of card games, yeah. And I'm playing Eternal exclusively. I mean, I even stopped playing Magic because of this game.
Okay. How did you start getting into Eternal? Did you, see LSV stream? Did you get told by someone else?
I actually play other board games as well, so I was pretty familiar with what Direwolf Digital was doing because they do make also physical board games, publishing through Renegade Game Studios. And I was actually playing Elder Scrolls Legends first. I really liked that one, and a friend of mine, we were playing together, he started playing Eternal, and he was bugging me all the time, you should check it out, it's like Magic, you're gonna like it. And I really wanted to play something different. But after a while, he sent me an invite, just to be his referral, and I said, okay, fine, I'm gonna go through the campaign. And that day, I think I spent like 20 hours playing Eternal, and I haven't looked back. That was last year, October, I think. Yeah, okay. October.
Cool, yeah. Cool. So you've been playing the same Icaria Blue list since the Season 1 Invitational.
Yeah.
Is it just a bit of a comfort deck, or do you actually think it's the best deck in the format?
It's definitely a comfort deck. I mean, mostly after Season 1 Invitational, the next weekend I had a skiing injury, and I actually broke my shoulder, so I wasn't really feeling like brewing stuff and testing with the people I usually play with. And Icaria Blue was a deck that I knew how to play. I still think it's good in the format. It basically is a role to see what decks apply for a tournament and to play the meta. I think it's excellent against any midrange deck, especially Argent-Port. You can battle with anything. It has good matchup with the control deck, so I can battle Feln. It's a tough matchup to play because you have to play around many stuff, but I think it has a good matchup. Aggro first game is difficult, after Celebrate is easier. The problem I had, and it's a huge problem, is Praxis Midrange. I mean, Dawnwalkers really kill me. There are fixes for that, obviously. I think last week Kamata was playing Amelia in the sideboard. It was a really cool innovation. And this week I basically only ran into single Praxis deck, and I got a bit lucky to actually win that matchup, and everything else was mostly mid-range or control. So I will probably still continue playing it because, yeah, it's a comfort deck. I know how to play it, and I can take out a couple of cards here and there to try to accommodate for the new meta. I'm not sure what's best right now, to be honest. I think the meta is fairly open, and I actually like that a lot about Eternal. So I don't think there is a single best deck. Probably I'll play some aggro deck like the Flamestoker with Haunting Dreams and things like that if I wasn't playing Icaria, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, I've always been a big fan of Icaria Blue. I put the deck together way back in closed beta, back when I had access to things like Push Onwards, which is kind of what... it's just kind of like a Quarry-like card, but yeah, it's been a deck that's been around for a long time, and it's nice to see it actually getting tournament results. It's kind of a much maligned deck from a lot of players, for being inconsistent with his power base, and of course crests and strategies have helped that. But I'm always happy to see it do well. So seeing you do well with it and seeing you play it in the Invitational has been great.
It is definitely what we call a greedy deck. I agree about that, and I don't see. I mean, Huru Crest when they come up, they will help a lot for sure.
Yeah.
But so far, I mean, I'm trying to treat it as a Huru control deck, splashing red for Icaria. So I usually keep hands with any red, and that's fine. I can manage it, and that's how I try to build the deck. I need to get to 3 fire influence till turn 7, hopefully. But if it's even later, that's fine as well, because I can keep up with everything.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a prediction for the meta this week? Was it kind of what you expected, and that's why you brought, you didn't decide to go ahead and brew, or?
I think I wasn't expecting that much of a Praxis decks. I saw the breakdown that Unearthly did, and I think it was like 7 or 8 Praxis decks, and that's a lot, because I do think their matchup with Argenport is really bad. I don't know how they win against Argenport, and I know that Argenport is a popular deck. So basically, what I'm always hoping for is Argenport and any other mid-range brews, and I think I have a good matchup against Moment of Creation as well. I mean, the finals was a very tense. I think we played 4 games or something like that. There was a game when I won on just a single life point.
Yeah.
But again, I think the matchup is good there as well. You're gonna navigate it. It's a hard matchup. That's what I like about Icaria. Icaria Blue deck. It rewards good play. How can I say? I think I can say like that. It's not an autopilot deck. You gotta consider. You're gonna make some concessions somewhere. Take some early damage. Maybe not remove a creature when you need to, just to try and bait out more of a Hashul. Play around stuff. Play around counters. Counter the crucial things. And I think that, and the practice I have with the deck, because I've been playing the deck since season 1, actually not just season 1 Invitational, but season 1, the first tournament, the first weekly. So I've been playing this deck a lot, and I think I can edge out those small advantages, and they will result in eventually a win.
Okay. Yeah, I did watch the finals. I was actually trying to watch as much of the top 8 as I could. I'm just watching it in client, and I watched every one of the matches in the finals. I was watching from Suno's perspective, however. But yeah,
Yep.
Those are some very intense, very close games.
Yeah.
The match where you rose for a 22-20 Icaria was pretty interesting.
Yeah. That was a nail in the coffin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the first match against Sono, the first game against Sono, I actually won with him resolving in cold blood on my Icaria.
Mm-hmm.
So we were playing all the time against that. I was trying to Aegis my face, so the remove effect from the deck doesn't resolve from the cold blood. He was all constantly pinging my Aegis on face, and then I actually ran out on Icaria, and he had a way to remove the Aegis on the Icaria, play an in cold blood, which I had a counter for, then play another in cold blood, removing my Icarias, and I was left with a couple of Thorn Wardens and a Hammer, I think, and still managed to win. That was an excellent game. It helped that my next draw was the buffed up Thorn Warden, of course, but it was an amazing game.
Yeah. So I actually had a question about something you said just there. So you say Icaria Blue is actually a favored matchup into the Moment decks. I can see the difference between the Shadow Moment deck versus the Primal Moment deck. The Shadow Moment deck has a lot more dead cards. Varus Choice.
Yeah.
Doesn't really do much. It has a very high chance to miss unless they can weave it in right after a Rise for the Challenge, and you also don't have Face Aegis. But in my experience, the Primal Moment deck seems to be a favored matchup versus general Harsh Rule Control decks.
Yeah, the Primal Moment probably, yes. I was talking specifically about the one that faced in the finals, the Shadow one. The one that I faced in the finals, I think the issue there was that it wasn't pressuring me enough. So if it was playing creatures, they were from 4 cost on, and at that point in time, I'm not under pressure. I can take a couple of hits there. That's fine. I mean, until I have at least 1 life point, I'm alive. And I can deal with those very easily, and then all I have to do is play around moments. So either keeping Alien Choice or keeping Harshuls and things like that. After sideboard, I know he had Hall of the Lost Kings, so I added extra counter spells as well, and my Caleb Choice is actually good there as well. It could pick up the Hall of the Lost Kings, it could counter Hall of the Lost Kings as well. So it was basically a waiting game for me to try and find an opening to hit with an Icaria or a big sword or a big Daisho at the end of the game, while playing around some of his threats and playing around the 7 mana spells.
Okay. Usually we ask about, who your hardest opponent is and or your most memorable matchups, but I think we've kind of talked about, those in terms of Praxis and the match for Suno. So are there any other interesting matchups from this last weekend that you want to talk about?
The Huru Brave Flash. That was an interesting match. Yeah. I faced Huru Flash in the Swiss, and I think playing around smartly against I don't remember the name, the creature that bans all weapons. So playing around smartly against that one, Huru Pacifier. Yeah, playing around smartly against that one can help you a lot. But the Huru Brave Flyers had stand together, and that was devastating at a couple of points. I mean, you can't really play around it. When they set up a board and then you have to harsh rule on turn 5 and they have to stand together, you probably die on the next turn.
Yeah, I've run into that situation a lot, and whenever stand together is in the meta, it's very tense. They're holding up 3 power, and you have to just go, well, show me. And
you can't do anything else. I mean, I cannot wait even further. I cannot wait a couple of more turns to try and stabilize in other ways, and that sometimes wrecks me. I think I lost a game like that in the quarterfinals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the Ikaria blue deck you're running, do you run that deck on ladder, or do you have any? Do you have a different laddering deck? Do you think this is mostly a tournament deck?
This is definitely mostly a tournament deck. On ladder, it has issues. I mean, on ladder, you play a single game. You don't know. The main advantage of running Ikaria blue in tournaments is that I see the opponent's deck lists. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the main advantage for running any control deck in the tournament. I can see your deck list before the match. I know what to play against. I know what's your win conditions. I know how many exactly of each card you play. So that helps me a lot when running control decks. And I don't have that on ladder. Plus, on ladder, the deck is not geared toward fighting aggro game 1. So I kind of concede to aggro game 1 with this version of Ikaria blue. And I bring in a bunch of stuff from the sideboard. So I would definitely not recommend this for ladder. On ladder, currently I'm playing Flamestoker. So I said, Haunting Dreams, things like that. I usually try to climb the ladder using some aggro deck, and then I start experimenting. I also am a fan of Argenport as well. Before the change to Bartol, actually, I was playing a lot of Argenport. So I also like that deck a lot. I just don't think it's well positioned for tournaments. But I like it on ladder a lot.
Okay. Well, then I think that is the last question I had. Is there anything you'd like to say before we close this interview?
I would just like to thank you and the rest of the RNGee team that's doing the ETS tournaments. It's what's keeping me in the game. I'm a highly competitive player, and I was really, positively surprised when I saw that there is a competitive tournament in Eternal, and I love it. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for the interview, and thank you for the kind words.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Wait, okay. So apparently I'm the only one who can be heard on stream right now. Sorry guys, we're having some I deafened you on Discord? No, I did not. Oh, yeah, sorry, I muted you on Discord. Sorry, I'd never do that. Okay. And you guys are live.
All right. So after some production hiccups. All right, so we're in the closing portion of our show. Of course, we have the list of the upcoming tournaments, we have our standard Tuesday, Friday, Saturday lineup, which is to say the Kylari's North American and EU Opens. He runs 2 events on Tuesdays, one built for EU players as they get home from work, and one for NA players as they get home from work. Then we have the TJP TGP Casual Fridays. That's late in the afternoon for North American Eastern Time. Then we have, of course, the usual ETS Weekly Open on Saturday, starting at noon. And then we will be broadcasting the Player Draft Tournament on Saturday, April 28th. If you have not registered for that, it's a little bit too late now. We have, of course, had the draft portion over the weekend. So, do we have any player questions? And if we get a couple of sub-deck submissions real quick, we can play one best of 3 tonight. We kind of have to head out a little quickly right after the show, but if we get 2 links to 2 decks on Eternal Warcry from 2 subs, we'll hop into a quick best of 3 with them.
But it'll be the best of 3.
Yes.
It'll certainly be better than my ability to rank teams.
And hopefully it'll be better than your ability to play best of 3s last weekend.
Wow. All right. How many did you win?
Well, let's not talk about that.
I think you should. Hey, this is Miller Tool. I think you should just always rank Hulk last, just as the default.
To continue the tilt.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Ooh, continuing the tilt. Now that is a cause I can get behind.
Yeah. I mean, he said he feeds off the tilt, so. So we are looking for some sublists of high and or 0 quality. So if anybody has anything worse than my ladder decks from a year ago, good luck.
Silver Bullet, Deadly Direfang Spider comes to mind.
That was a great deck. That was not a great deck.
That was a deck that existed in the card game Eternal. You were 75 legal cards. You had the influence to play your cards.
Well, it wasn't 75 playable cards though, so we were spared that. You know what? Why don't I sit this one out since I always play, and we let Miller and rekenner have a showdown to show who the best is.
I guess I should unmute. Oh boy.
Did I disenchant all my Veras? I did. No, I disenchanted one.
Do I have 4 Last Light Druids? I don't have 4 Last Light Druids. Miller, do you have Last Light Druids?
Checking.
I wonder how many I have. I suspect it's not.
Wait, I think I crafted Last Light.
Oh
no.
shit! Can you play the list that was just linked?
Wait a minute. Let me make sure.
I
have 4 Last Light Druids.
Oh, okay. Did you see the link in chat? Can you play that one, Miller?
Yeah, let me try.
All right. Oh,
first
Hump
one?
listed linked a list that's called Shaq Fu. I think I gotta play that one.
Also linked a list, so we'll have to see.
Wait,
Unfortunately, I don't have Last Light Druids to play that list, Kylos. I also don't have Great Kiln Titans, sadly.
Why does this list have Frenzied Omnivores?
Oh, this list! I saw Hulk playing this list. This was sweet. All right, yeah, I'm down.
All right,
play this one.
I'm short a Magus of the Mist.
Ooh.
All right, hang on. I'll just buy a couple.
All right. Nice.
Like with gold?
Yeah.
Miller willing to sacrifice his shift stone for the greater good.
Just a little gold.
I mean, I was ready to craft 4 Last Light Druids.
You said you were gonna sit this one out.
Yeah, but like if neither of you guys can, and the call to arms came.
When the call to arms came, RNGee was there. I don't have Force Twilight Hunt. That's right. I'm gonna put in Xena Initiation. Let's go.
Everybody cheer for Miller as he opens packs on stream.
Hooray! All right.
Although Kalos is withdrawing the list and suggesting you play the Great Kiln Reanimator, which I cannot promise is better than the list that
no,
he has
that's
provided.
Impossible because I bought 3 packs. How could I possibly? And I'm about to craft this Magus of the Mist.
After that commitment, that's too much.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait. We need a confirmation. Should I confirm this? Should I create this Magus of the Mist or not?
Do it.
Doing it. All right. Done it.
You've made a terrible mistake.
Shift stones are...
Druid is good? Question mark.
Druid is not good.
It's a card. The deck has some pretty sweet results. It's not like a tier 1 deck, but like it's a playable deck in terms of like if you want to like make your way up ladder slowly and fun, which I've definitely done many seasons.
Or make your way down ladder rapidly.
No, it's not temporal level.
Hold on. We've
I'll
got a
have
quote
you-
for this.
I'll have you
Maybe
know.
I can high roll it. Is it 4?
All right, Miller, you ready?
It's basically my
Yeah, I'm
quote.
ready.
All right.
I'm at Diamond 3 with temporal at the moment.
See, RNG. If he can climb with temporal, he can climb with this list too, probably.
I don't even
Probably.
know how it works. I should probably read about it. Let's see. Oh, we'll
Don't-
just
don't
roll
read
with
what
it.
Last Light Druid does.
We'll just figure it out. It
Yeah.
doesn't actually do anything.
All right.
Spoiler.
It
This-
does.
What is my
does
mana
nothing.
needs? Oh shit!
What?
Wait a minute. Okay, it's
This
just
week's commentary brought to you by RNGee. All right,
Elysium.
so the first card you need is Mind Link. So mull for Mind Link.
Wait, no, this
Um,
looks.
RNG, I may have some bad news for you.
Is Mind Link not in the deck?
Mind Link is not in the deck.
This is the worst Mind Link deck I've ever heard of.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Oh my
No,
god!
no,
What
no,
is
regard.
this deck? Who made this deck?
All right, now's your opportunity. Read what the card does. It's
Pillar
not
of
like
a...
you're going to do anything else
Wait,
for
I
5
just-
turns.
Rec, don't look at my hand.
I'm not looking at your hand.
I'm looking at his
It's
hand.
buddy. It's like honor system. All right, buddy honor system. When you end the turn at night. Oh my! This is like it's a challenge just to get this to trigger ever.
It has Nightfall.
Yeah, it has Nightfall itself.
Okay.
It is the only Nightfall card in the deck.
That's
Transform
not true.
each other unit you played this turn, so you have to play a bunch of units.
Rick, I haven't looked at the deck list, okay? I think that Mind Link is in the deck.
That's true.
But
Okay,
I have confidence that what
Okay.
you want is the 4th pillar of a mark.
Thank you. That is
Maybe
awful.
I'm guessing at what's in Miller's hand.
No need to guess.
Just wait till I get 7 power.
Okay, seriously. Look, this is the weakest play in the. I've got to do
Does
it.
that
I'm-
trigger itself?
Nope. Apparently not.
It doesn't?
No.
Oh
Each
my
other
God.
unit you played this turn.
Okay.
It doesn't even turn into a better card.
Okay. So
You can safely block that unless he has Varus favor.
yeah,
There's no way he has Varus.
Are you
No
feeling
way.
lucky? Punk.
I feel like this unit is so worthless that I don't care.
Yeah, about it.
I'd save
You know your deck was named after that unit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so does
apparently you mulled wrong. You mulled away a speaker. Yeah, that's can't mull away a speaker. It's the MVP of the deck.
Oh, all right. I don't know what I'm doing.
I mean, clearly.
So does transforming unit equal? No, it does not equal playing a unit. So that doesn't.
Right, you don't get summon effects.
What the?
Just play your piggy.
Yeah. All right.
Oink oink. What's it gonna be?
Wait a minute. No, I don't. No, I don't.
It's
Is that-
statistically better.
No,
I think that might have been a downgrade.
I don't want to. Is that shit?
That may have been a downgrade.
Oh my
You're,
god.
you're good. You're good.
Okay.
He can't do anything. You're holding him off.
Mm-hmm.
Look, the next time you wait, doesn't that have a life force effect?
Yeah.
All right.
I can gain.
I don't know.
I can't
Play
gain
another
my-
Last Light Druid or something,
Yeah. Hmm.
or just start slamming those unstable forms and rolling the dice. Turn that 6/6 into a 7-cost thing that matters.
That's a good idea. Let's do that.
Oh shit! Oh,
Killing
and it has haste. And if I had attachments, I would be in pretty bad
You would
shape.
be so
No, it
boned
doesn't
right
have,
now.
it doesn't have charge because it doesn't have Dinosaur Ally, but it can swing anyway.
Are you guys sure that play has to be played from hand? That really makes sense that would be the case.
All cards are played.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where they're from.
Are you gonna scourge me? Oh shit, Caleb.
Play
Are you gonna
over.
scourge me, bro?
Oh,
I
can
don't-
I? Oh, that's right. I can scourge you.
Not very well.
No.
All right, just
This is awful.
Just wish that batteries made this deck instead of.
I mean, not the
Whoever
deck.
did.
I mean, this experience of trying to play it.
It's not the deck's fault. It's
The
just,
deck is trying its hardest, Miller. Come on.
This was invented by the same person that invented Chinese water torture.
Okay, now
Oh.
we're on the right track here. I think I can win the game because I've got 4 Sursas. Elysian midrange. with
Well,
last
you
lecture.
turned one of them into something else, so I'm not sure if that was the play or not.
Yeah, I did do that.
All right, you know what you must do.
I do?
What must he do?
What must I do?
There's this gear in the upper right.
Oh!
Alright. Let's see. I'm gonna just... I would like to do something. So,
Whoa.
that's my something. Wait, why didn't that work?
Wait.
Summon.
what?
Oh, summon played, not attack. Okay.
Look, if you had Mind Link out right
Correct.
now, you would have so many pigs.
So many pigs. Infinite.
So many pigs. Don't do it. Don't. Oh, he did it.
Oh shit! What I'm gonna get? I'm gonna get a 3-drop. No, 2-drop. That's not a bad 2-drop.
I thought it was. I thought Caleb was on attack, not on summon. Oh well.
No, you're thinking of Jack. Is the one
Alright.
that's on attack.
All right, you know what you got? Yeah, that.
No.
Oh man!
No, it transforms him. That's how that works. Oh, but
Oh
it worked.
shit! Yo! Okay, that ain't good. I don't like that one, bro.
That's pretty good, bro.
Yeah, it's good.
Let's see. What do I got here?
Take
this guy
back
just
everything I
keeps-
said.
Not bad.
Gaining life and drawing cards, and gaining life and drawing cards.
I mean, I got that.
Ouch. Okay.
Oh, you know, do it. Do it. Wait,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, wait.
Really?
No, but I get to. Yeah, I get to do.
No, I'm just confused why that other card's in the deck.
Oh
I mean, I
shit!
know why
Pillar
that-
Omar.
All right, you got a chump attack here for that card draw, or you could get a 6-drop. What's it gonna be, Miller?
What do you mean?
No, it doesn't get the last light druid won't transform the Young Peace Scholar because it wasn't played this turn.
Okay, you can chump attack at a later turn.
Come on.
It's gonna
RDFC.
take. It's gonna.
RDFC RNG.
It's gonna
He will
transform.
get an 8-drop and a 6-drop.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's see what happens.
Are they good ones?
Whoosh.
Yeah.
Do you
well,
have any shadow
doesn't do
units in
anything.
your void or in
Nope.
your deck?
But
Actually, neither of those do anything.
she's got deadly? Question mark.
Well,
Nice.
well, I've got some bad news for you.
Uh oh.
Is it actually the card bad news?
To be fair, I'm not really sure what I do about the card Cerso.
A huge Venom Rider.
Like, I think my sole answer to Cerso is like get out like 3 obelisks and kill or something into it. I don't really know.
Miller, just play out your pillars, set up a huge Last Light Druid meme turn, and then go to bed.
Hulk,
That's a great
how do I beat the card Cerso, comma the Great Glutton? I need your help.
You know, he can't hear you any better if you yell in my ear, just by the way.
I mean, they have a big board. Oh, that does some things.
That doesn't do anything. Okay, you do it.
Yep. I'm doing it.
1, 2, and then
Oh,
you
shit.
remember to play the obnoxious card that doesn't do anything.
Which one should
Yeah.
I play it on? Let's
Winter's
see.
Grasp?
I guess
Yeah.
I'll play it on this one since that guy's really.
No, I wanted to recur my Dark Wisp. Why?
All right, now attack with the Last Light Druid and fuck it all up.
Wait. All right. Big money, no whammies. Are
Okay,
these
this is
good?
pretty fucking good.
Island? Okay.
That's,
Curiox?
That's
is
yeah,
that
okay.
a 3/7?
Yeah, it's a 3/7.
Yeah, that
Nice.
is a 3/7.
Some of those cards are pretty good.
Not,
Okay,
not,
cool.
not the 3/7.
Wings.
Well,
All right, I've got like the biggest Venom Rider known to mankind.
that's a deadly charger.
Yeah.
How do you beat Cerso?
I don't know how I beat Cerso.
Oh, you island triggers off of unstable form. Miller, you're doing it.
Oh, and what does
Oh,
she do?
shit.
Let's see. She.
So cast 4 unstable forms.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's see what happens
Unless
when
you
I do
unstable
that
forms
to
All right,
this
get rid
guy.
of that Town Watchman. Yeah, you don't want that. Uh-oh.
Wait,
Uh-oh.
what just happened?
It's casting Equivocate. You get to target it.
Okay.
Oh,
So
shit.
you can pick up and rebuy like your Vera or something. I don't know.
Oh, double killer into it. That's pretty clever, Hulk. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Double killer what?
Into the Cerso. I just need like 10 power, I
Oh.
guess. Or I guess I make one and then next turn make another one. Yeah, sure, I guess. Ribbon piece. Oh,
right.
shit. I got a win con, boys.
Uh-oh.
Oops.
Oh, shit. I got a win con.
Wait, what has just happened now? Okay.
Oh, yo, fucking Raider Frogs, you fucking what? Damn it, he's got my win con.
Oh no, I don't know what it is. I have to read your fucking.
Fuck. Fucking Raider Frogs. Kylos, how you do me like this? Putting Raider Frogs into a deck I have to play
Why is
against.
there an 18-12 Dizo? What the hell? 10-12?
No, that's 10-12.
What
Well,
the
I've
hell?
played 3 Ageless Mentors, but
Oh, it's the
Miller
Bart.
has a
The Bart.
Aegis.
Oh no.
Yes,
Oh, no,
he
I didn't pick the Bart.
card.
I didn't pick the Bart.
He didn't take the right card.
All right, randomly attack. Yes. Flyers.
Oh shit, that gets him a Dragon's Eye now. Fuck.
Attack.
I've been
Dragon's
I've
Eye,
been
Dragon's Eye win. The combo continues.
Yo, Chad, is this not the sweetest fucking particle effect in the game?
Wait, does it not trigger it because it's no longer a spell?
Oh fuck, Dizo is
It
unblockable.
does still trigger it. That was another Rain of Frogs, by the way.
Yeah. I picked the
Oh,
right one this
fuck.
time.
You're right.
You know, if
Dizo
you
is
play,
unblockable. I'm dumb. I haven't played with that card because it's garbage. But I should RTFC better.
if you play the Magus, you get another roll on the Last Light Druid because it has Nightfall.
Oh,
Yeah,
shit.
that's a good idea.
Look at me coaching Miller through this.
And I'm gonna do Sandstorm Titan and get rid of them too.
Yeah.
Flyers.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe it'll turn into a Stranger and you'll draw a card off a Fortunate Stranger. Wouldn't that be fortunate?
No. Stun, life
All
force
right.
draw. This is ridiculous. What?
Boom, discard a card. All right,
That card had Destiny.
Boom.
Why you gotta do them like that?
The frenzied omnivore grows.
Was that actually better than double killering Cerso?
Maybe, I don't know.
Could be. Get those flyers in there.
Yeah, I'm gonna lose this because I forgot that Dizo had unblockable because I'm bad at this game. Damn.
I think Miller's just really good at this game. Andor had the better coach.
Okay. Get rid of these. I don't really want to cast my spells anymore. Anyway, okay. Oh, that doesn't work. Okay, go.
Sweet play. Oh,
Soul Collector,
that's gonna
watch
get
out.
big. It's quite the 1/1. What am I watching?
This has
What are we
gone
watching?
ridiculous.
He's got all these killer effects, and he's like, you know what? I really need to take out the 1/1s.
Well, see, I have a plan.
No, you don't.
Oh,
I just wanted it to live, you see.
he had a plan.
But how are you gonna live? He's got a 4/4 that grows every turn. All right, you need to trade away all your stuff and then play that.
I don't have
Oh,
enough
no.
life. I don't have enough life.
Oh no.
Damn
He almost fell for it.
it. Sure.
Okay. Now I'm
Alright.
just confused.
All right.
All right,
Play this.
All right, all right.
all right, all right.
I'm tired of this game, so do something with that.
Oh well, that I can agree with this line. Sure. Dunk. Dunk.
Did we advertise this anywhere as high level play?
No.
No. We're smarter than that one.
Okay.
Now I just need some way to give this Frenzied Omnivore evasion. I don't think exists. Miller, you don't have 25 life.
I know. I'm not gonna have it.
Okay.
I'm not gonna get 25 life either.
Oh, shit.
Nice,
pretty
so
good.
far, Drake. Okay.
All you need to do is just keep rolling flyers
God damn.
and hope that he runs out of killer effects at some point.
I don't know what to kill here.
The Soulfire
Probably-
Drake.
The Soulfire
probably
Drake.
that one.
No, you have to kill the Soulfire Drake. What are you?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Well, you see,
Oh, he's got like a something. Oh.
That doesn't block you at all. That blocks you. Oh,
Yeah.
no it doesn't. No it doesn't.
Oh,
Give him
no.
a taste of the old upgrade, Aru.
oh fuck!
No!
Yes! and it has ages.
That is
The outplay.
awful. Oh no.
All right, just get in there. Just
Yeah.
get in there with your dude.
Yeah, I'm getting in there.
Get in there.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't drawn an 8th power, which would help me against this Urso in like 15 turns. Now, see, the thing is, all of Miller's deck now has charge or flying, but since all the cards are getting randomly turned into something else, it doesn't matter.
Oh.
All right.
Yeah.
Play the stone, Miller.
Yeah, you're right, Hulk. I really fucked up, and then I forgot Dizo had unblockable. If I had remembered that, I probably would have been in good shape. Oh,
Oh, watch it. Oh no, that's actually bad.
He still doesn't have the 8th power, so it's really no different than him drawing an 8th power.
Hmm.
You know, you're pretty close to just killing him.
Yeah. That is.
Not anymore. He gained 1 life.
Also got an 8th power.
Hmm.
You know, you should probably get rid of his memory dredger before it dredges some memories.
Yeah.
To be fair, Hulk, I
Yeah.
think I've watched you play this deck like 5 or 6 times, and I don't really know what's in the deck. I probably have made a handful of misplays in terms of not playing the deck and not playing cards like Dizo.
I wouldn't call them a handful. Is this the greatest jump attack of our lifetime?
And now Miller brings out the secret execute tech. Oh, I should have blocked with the 7/7. That was dumb. The lifesteal. That is actually relevant.
Okay.
I was just thinking of
See,
want
I
the
want
frenzy
to
on the
actually
board to
see what
grow.
happens when I do this. Okay, they both transform, double transform.
Oh,
Oh, you transformed into a charge. The Stranger synergy.
Wow.
That's gonna help because those are some large men.
yeah, I've managed to acquire some large men.
This might be a best of one.
Just an average Monday night for Rec.
What? Oh.
Bonk.
Kiddo play.
So now we've got some things going on. Although there's the 15/15 Soul Collector that's a little scary, but I can take care of that momentarily.
Hmm.
And then be
Kill
at
the
very low
pig.
life.
Kill the pig.
Kill the pig.
Don't kill the pig. Cut its throat.
Oh, ouch. Well, now you have like multiple deadly strangers on board. What the hell?
Let's see. Should I? Oh, I could bounce this
shit.
guy. Yeah. No. It's gonna transform him. Damn it. This deck is really hard blue.
Bounce the 2120.
Yeah. Right. The 2120.
Fucking
Yeah.
equivocate.
No.
God damn it.
No.
No. You can equivocate your own thing and replay it. That's fine. I suggest
Yeah.
you do the Soul Collector. You don't want that on the field.
You have to spread out the good advice with some bad advice. That's good. God, this is not what what happens
Do
when
I
do this?
have?
Okay.
Yo, what? No!
Okay.
That's not fair.
Interesting. I think I'll
Not
just attack with
fair.
Agaria.
Not fair.
You know her
Plans
war
are
card didn't
ruined.
trigger because you don't have any units in your deck.
Oh no. Wait, I don't? Sure I do.
Uh-oh. Oh, but you have the answer. You know what you must do.
Go away.
Randomly
No!
equivocate the Icaria.
Oh,
You
but
know,
still...
if you had Mind Link, you would have so many cards right now.
Am I just Rek? I'm like just dead, right? Okay, I guess not.
No.
Oh! The fucking Dredger is unstunned because it's not permafrosted. It's Winter's Grasp.
Right.
I've been kind of like forgetting that card existed because I thought it had a good curse played onto it, but it didn't.
Card's bad. You should feel bad.
Yo, that's a big Titan.
Hmm. Ah.
Yo, that's a big deadly 7/7.
Jeez.
That's a dead Titan.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to finish the whole best of 3.
This is gonna be a best of one. I'm just letting you guys know, but it's a crazy one. Oh, yeah.
And this deck not having Mind Link, I'm just going to say it, hurt it.
Oh, I should have swung with the Memory Dredger because playing that. God damn it! I'm not used to playing with these cards. I was gonna swing with the Memory Dredger, but I made it night again because I'm an idiot. God, I'm like, oh, I can block the Akari with the gigantic Alu. Wait, Alu has Nightfall. Who has played with this card before? Because it's not me.
God. I don't.
He didn't attack with Akaria!
Because he's got an 8/11.
Because I have an 8/11 blocker.
So?
You know, fair, I guess.
Are you gonna win the game by holding back your 5/5?
Nope, 8/11 attacker. Bullet Time Moo missed it as well.
I mean, this is the definition of a shit show.
Yes, it is.
These subdecks were drafted to become a shit show.
Go away, Don Walker. No one loves you. Blump. I don't. Have either of us played a single turn where all of our decisions were correct?
No. But
okay,
I do
good.
have a charging one of these checks.
Oh my god.
All right.
Oh, that's a big attack. Fortunately, I have like
a bunch of units.
I on the abductors and shit. All right, so let's do the thing where I do the blocks.
So how effective would an 11/11 Cerso be here? An 11/11 flying Cerso? Because I feel like it would be pretty good. I feel like that Akari attack would have been pretty good.
He had like just chump attack. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, chump attack for the Warcry.
Yeah.
And then you'd have a flying Cerso.
Yeah.
Alright, time to take this deck to ladder, but replace all the Last Light Druids with Mind Links.
The pig has become a pig!
Okay, Rek, do
that
a
poor Temple
bajillion.
Scribe.
See how much damage you can actually do. Go ahead.
That poor Temple Scribe. Oh, those are big frenzied omnivores, aren't they?
No. Honestly, he might have Crystallize up. I would just, you know.
Holy shit. Alright.
Did a Soulfire Drake die at some time? Yes. Which should tell you all you need to know.
Could go either way.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I've made many mistakes in this game. Mostly not reading the card Dizo.
Among other misplays.
Or reading the card Alu.
Or reading the card Winter's Grasp and not putting it in your deck.
Well,
That was
not putting in my deck is a misplay.
Yeah. Alright.
Oh man.
So we are tired and it is 11 o'clock, but thanks for coming out. We know this is your guys' favorite segment of the show.
It honestly is. Look,
there's
our
all
spike
this high
every
level
time.
analysis and then memeing. We know our target audience.
All right, everyone. I think that is indeed the end of the show. So good night, and we should get submissions along those quality every week. I'm not even being sarcastic. That was actually one of the most fun games I played in a long time.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you very much. Was that Kalos who?
That was Kylos and Hulk.
All right, thanks. Thank you very much.
That was an 11th ranked deck, if I've ever seen one.
Yes, we should expect to see Frenzy Omnivore in at least 2 of Hulk's lineups.
Sounds good. All right, this has been Best of 3, and this was our best episode yet. We bid you good night.
Low bar.